Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you are watching this. This is Mr. Sakowicz. I'm recording this video for my Felix Varela Senior High School VRCA 101 students. Today's lesson, we're going to go into Module 3, Lesson 5. Module 3, Lesson 5, we're talking about player control. So for the first time, we're actually going to get to use the keyboard with a script that we make to control something. And it's a pretty cool little project. It's called the Arena. It is actually called the Ball Arena. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to be in our IQ Excel, and you're going to read through this first portion here to get a better understanding about player control, talking about the consoles and the analog or digital controls as are on game pads. You're also going to learn a little bit how they work with virtual reality and in PC when we use our keyboard or mouse. You're going to see more interesting things about virtual reality and even talking about mobile gaming with the touch controls. And then, of course, what we're using in our classroom, the Oculus Go headsets. But today we're going to be doing it with the use of our keyboard and everything. We're going to be scripting in Unity so we can create an object that actually moves. So it's going to be called Ball Arena. You're going to start by going to Unity and creating a new project that's called Ball Arena. I'm going to call mine Ball Arena. Make sure it is all together, first letter capital of all words. And I'm just going to put a 2 next to mine because I've done this previously, but yours is just going to be Ball Arena. All right, so just Ball Arena. Create new project, and as that's loading up in Unity, we're going to skim through. We're going to take a little look at what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be creating a new scene, and we're going to be creating some new folders. We're going to call those folders materials, prefabs, scenes, and scripts. So we need 4 folders. Very important. All right, that's after we create our first and only scene. So we're going to have one scene called Ball Arena, and then we're going to have 4 folders that are called materials, prefab, scenes, and scripts. All right, materials, prefab, scenes, and scripts. All right, I think Unity is ready for us, so let's start doing that. Let's save our first scene. Do you remember the name? What was it called? Let's take a look again if you already forgot. I might have already forgot. It's called Ball Arena. So we're going to go back to Unity and call it Ball Arena. Just like that, same way, first letter capital. Hit save. You should have your first asset in your project folder. But remember, we need 4 folders. What were they? Let's see. Let's go to create, and it's going to be folder, and it was materials. What was the other one? It was create scripts. And what was the other one? Was it scenes? Let's take a look just to be doubly safe. It was scenes and prefabs. All right, so we're going to go to create scenes. And the last one, very important, prefabs. Prefabs, one word. All right, so you should have 4 folders. Let's drag that scene into our scenes folder. Right into there, drag that scene onto scenes folder, and now it's inside of scenes. This is good organizational skills. That's what you're learning with this. And if we double click on that scene, we make sure we're still on there, and sure we are. We're going to save our project. Let's go back to the root. Let's go back to the main project folder. What we're going to do is we're going to use cubes to create and transform and make this quote-unquote arena, this little kind of, looks like a little pig pen, all right? And it's going to be any color of our choice. So let's do that first. I'm going to do it right quickly, but you could take your time and make it any color you want. So to do it any color, we're going to use our materials. So 2 things we're going to do here. We're going to create some cubes. I'm going to go to 3D Object Cube, and then I'm going to use the Scale tool to kind of change the shape quite a bit. I'm going to make it nice and thin because it's going to be my floor. Don't make this a plane or terrain. It's got to be a cube, and you'll see why in a bit because we are going to make this into a prefab. All right, so my scale, I'm going to make my scale 10 by 10, I think. All right, so a nice 10 by 10 boxy looking arena. All right, and then I'm going to make another cube, and I'm going to bring that up, And this is going to be my wall. So I'm going to go back to the scale tool, and I'm just going to make that a 10 by, let's make that 10 wide. I'm going to make it very skinny. Let's make it maybe 0.1. And this is going to be one of my walls. It doesn't have to be that tall. You'll see why in a moment. But I'm going to make it so where I can make this a wall. I'm going to bring this over here. It doesn't have to be perfect where it is, but you can have fun and lay it out where you like. It does have to somehow line up and actually make a wall shape. So if it's not fitting right, make sure you move it properly. All right. And if you do want it to line up perfectly, you can use coordinates to actually do that. I'm going to duplicate this now 3 more times to make the other 3 walls. So let's do this easily and quickly. Control D for duplicate. You could have also gone to right-click, duplicate. So now with my second cube, which is now really my wall, I'm going to drag that over here. All right. If you're not following along so quickly, you can pause and rewind the video. I'm going to duplicate this 2 more times. Control D, Control D. I now have really essentially cube 2, 3, and 4 sitting around on top of each other over here. So let me pull those, and there they are. I'm now going to rotate these 2 cubes. And if I hold down Control on the keyboard, I can get that perfect rotation just as I want it. Did you see how I did that with the rotate? By the way, rotate tool is up here. But while I'm rotating, if I hold down Control, you see how I have those little tick marks? That tells me I'm going to be exactly where I want to be as far as lining it up perfectly and not trying to figure out if it's straight or not. All right, it's right on the perfect axis. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to make my wall over there. And I'm going to click on this wall. I can also click inside the hierarchy. And I'm going to transform with the rotate and make that one the same direction. I'm then going to move that. And I'm going to move myself so I can see it better. And I'm going to bring that right over there. There we go. Perfect. The only problem is it's kind of boring. It's kind of white and pale and just kind of nothing really going on. So let's make a material, shall we? Let's actually go inside materials folder first. You're going to keep everything organized. And you're going to go to create material. And I'm going to make mine, let's call this arena color. Remember, always together and first letter capital. And I'm going to go to my albedo. And I'm going to make this, let's make it like a Varela green. All right, I'm just going to drag that. Well, I'm not going to drag it yet onto my object because first I'm going to make this a prefab. I'm going to make this entire arena a prefab so I don't have to go click onto each object. I can do it much quicker. This will be very helpful in the future when you're actually using a lot of objects together. So how am I going to make this entire arena a prefab? Let's go into prefabs folder. And let's select and shift click. So I'm going to select one of these cubes and then I'm going to hold down shift on the keyboard, click so they're all selected, and then I'm going to drag that together. And if it doesn't allow me to, then what do I need to do? Aha, it doesn't allow me to because they're all parents. You cannot make a prefab of all those parents together. So you have to have your regular cube, which is going to be the floor in this case. And then you're going to drag the other cubes, which are the walls, to make them children. Does that make sense? So now that cube, without the number, is a parent. It's everything together. Okay. Now you can drag that onto prefabs. Aha. And now your new object is an entire prefab. I'm going to change that to be arena. All right, I'm going to rename it. Now, with that, you can now give that a material. Okay, and if I were to drag the arena color onto arena, it's still giving me the only one color, and that's because they're not hooked up exactly. So we'll just drag them on, the color on, and do it manually. There is another way of making sure we select all the color together, but for now, for today, we'll just leave it like that. Okay, so there's our arena. What are we going to do with our arena? What exactly is the point of this? Well, we're actually going to put some shapes in that we're going to play with a little game. It's a little ball arena game. So let's now make back in our, we're going to put this into our prefabs folder, but we're not going to put it in there yet. We're going to create a new cube, so we're going to 3D object cube. And let's drag it up. Where is it? Way up there. Okay, perfect. It's a little too large for what we're going to do today, so we're going to use our transform and we're going to shrink it down just a little bit to about that size. Good. All right. And I'm going to zoom in here so I can work with this better. And I'm going to use the move tool. And I'm going to hover it just above the floor of the arena. I don't want it inside the floor, I want it just above. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and immediately give it a color. That way when I duplicate it and make it a parent or child, it has the color I want to do. Because we're going to make a bunch of duplicates and children and prefabs of this. So we're going to go into material, and we're going to add a new material, create material. And I'm going to call this block color. Or just block is fine. Back to albedo over here. And I'm going to make this a nice yellow. All right. Nice bright yellow. Drag that onto your cube. And just like that. Now, we're going to duplicate. And we're going to move it that way. Duplicate again. Move it that way. Duplicate one more time. And you're going to start stacking them. Just like that. We're going to make a little pyramid. Duplicate one more time. And one more time. There you go. Control D to duplicate, or go click on the object and then right click, duplicate. Either way. Okay. Let's move this one right in the middle. And there's our little block pyramid. So some of you can probably figure out where we're going with this already. Now, we're going to make all those cubes that we just created children of the original cube. So the pyramid is one piece. All right. Perfect. Now it is perfect. There's a parent and a child. Nice. We're going to make that a prefab. So let's go into our prefabs folder and drag that cube onto prefabs. Perfect. There it is. And we'll call that, we're going to call it block pyramid. Pyramid. Okay. Perfect. If I wanted to change the color of the arena when I had made a prefab, I would have best made the first block that color first. Just a little tip. So that's why our block pyramid already has that yellow color. And now, one more thing we want to do to the block pyramid is add a rigid body. This is very, very important. So I'm going to go to add component and search the word RIGID, and the first thing comes up, rigid body. Make sure you have a rigid body on your block pyramid. All right. If you're getting a little confused, pause and go back. All right, it needs to have a rigid body for this game to work. I'm going to place that in the corner right there. And I can see the rigid body is there. Make sure use gravity is also checked off. Very important. Make sure use gravity is checked off. Okay, we're going to duplicate, or we're going to use a prefab of this pyramid 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. Put them in the corners. All right, and they should be about that size. If they're any larger, it's going to be kind of awkward with our game. And yes, you can then rotate so they're all kind of facing the same way. That would be good. All right. We'll rotate these a little bit. Perfect. And if you don't like their placement, of course, you can replace a little bit, but make sure they're hovering just above the floor. Make sure they're not on the floor or below the floor. All right. So they should go right on the floor there. Actually, we can fix this one. We're going to delete that prefab and bring a new one on. And when it comes in, it goes right on the floor. So that's exactly where you want it. That way it's not kind of jostling or bumping around in the wrong place. Perfect. All right, now to play our game, we need some kind of object because we're going to crash into these little blocks we're creating. So we're going to create a ball. We're just going to make a 3D object, and we're going to make a sphere. And that is going to be our ball that is part of our game. Let's give that a material too. Let's give that like a bluish color. I'm going to go to create material. By the way, these colors can be any color you wish. They do not have to be the same color as I'm using. Ball color. Or just ball is fine. And I'm going to click on albedo, and I'm going to make it a bluish color. All right, so it's easy to see. Wait, where is my ball? I don't see it. Where's my sphere? Ah, it was below the surface, so I have to bring it into my project. Very important. I'm going to bring that blue color on, and we will drag sphere into our prefabs folder. And there you go. Now your sphere is a prefab. Beautiful. You should always be saving your work. I just pressed Control S on the keyboard. You can also go to File, Save Scene. Always be saving. If the power goes out, we would be very upset with our project not being saved. All right. You could have also been following along on the IQ Excel website if you're getting stuck or you need any of these helps. I'm just doing it for you in a video style. but everything that I'm doing exactly is just laid out. So now we need to make our ball move. We need to do something. So we're going to actually make a script onto our ball, onto our object. And the script is going to be called ball move. Don't get confused here in the lesson. I accidentally entitled it improperly. It shouldn't be ball arena. It should be ball move. So I'll show you how to fix that. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a new script. Let's go back to Unity. And we're going to go into our scripts folder. We're keeping everything organized. I'm going to right click, create C# script, ball move. One word, capital B, capital M, ball move. Hit enter and double click to open that up into Visual Studio. Now that's going to take a couple seconds, so while we're waiting for that to load up, we're going to go back to IQ Excel and we're going to copy the script. This first script underneath where it says section 3, create new ball move. Everything that's in here, all that. I'll be back to load up, but I got it perfect. And first what we're going to do is we're going to put everything in Visual Studio. Save, Control S. So I did a copy and paste everything. I replaced everything from that original script thing. Now remember, this is called ball move. So our public class namespace has to be not ball arena, ball move. If not, it will not work. So you need to change that name and you need to save. All right. Go back into Unity and yep, you got it already. You are going to drag that new script onto your ball, or it might just say sphere. You could rename the word sphere to ball. And you need to make sure that that ball move script is indeed there. Once you do that, save again, go to console, go to either game or just play. Oops, if your game looks like this, well, that doesn't look like very much, so you got to reposition your camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move myself in that position, and I'm going to click on camera and then either game object align with view or Control Shift F. Control Shift F, go back to game and press play. All right, and nothing is happening. Why not? Because we need to still hook up a little bit more. That is just the basics to what we're doing, but we need to hook up a little bit more. So our game is not really actually ready to work yet. That's what I want you to see, that we're putting the pieces on. We have our ball script, but we still need to hook up a little bit more. So don't get ahead of yourself. And that is that we need to know what the key commands are. So if you thought it was going to work right there, that was a good idea, but we still need to add a little bit more. So let's scroll down, and I want you to read through what the axes are and how we're going to utilize the WASD keys. That's for up, down, left, and right. Okay. And all we're going to do is don't worry about this. Don't copy that. No, no, no. Come down here where it says the update, the void update. We're going to copy that. Go back into Visual Studio and just the void update. So for you, it should be lines 17 to 21. Do you understand? Everything that's just a void update. Not the void start, not the public class. So highlight lines 17 to 21. You can either hit delete or just Control V if you've already copied the text to your virtual clipboard. Make sure you save and you see this green line, everything is good. Now, if I have one extra squiggly line, look down here at line 29. That's an extra. I got to get rid of that or my script is not going to work. Now I'm good. Let's go back to Unity. And now we don't even need to update our script. We don't have to bring it back onto ball. It should know already. And our script, if it's updated and we hit play, let's see what happens. There we go. It is every second outputting to the console where that position is. And what's happening? I'm pressing W, A, S, and D. Now I know the ball isn't moving. That's because we haven't given it that component yet on the script. But you can see down here, the vertical, horizontal axes are beginning to move. You hear that? When I press the keyboard and I press a key, those are the movements. So we're getting there. We have one more step. Let's go back to IQ Excel, and you can read about what we just did. And basically, we just need to add force to the ball. So we're going to go to, we can actually scroll down below, and let's make sure we're going to have the right part here. We're going to go to public class and understand about the forward backward movements. And we're going to copy right above where it says let's move our ball in Unity, that portion right there. That's got everything you need. Go to public class and copy everything in that window. Everything. and you're going to replace everything that includes just public class and on. So when you go back to Visual Studio, not this part here, not that. Start with lines 5 all the way down. Okay, all the way down, and you're going to replace. Okay, and if you did it right, your public class should be within those brackets, and everything else should be perfect. Hit save. It's green line. We're good. You should have about 42 lines of code. Go back to Unity. Wait for it to update. It's doing its auto update. Takes a couple seconds. And if you did it right, all right, we should be able to go to Game. And let's see. If you're still not getting it, why not? Aha, we forgot to do one more thing. Did we give our ball a rigid body? Were we supposed to? Aha, let's go back and see. So we go back to our ball, which we did add, and let's see. Did it have a rigid body? Aha, the ball has the rigid body. Everything has to have physics. Everything has to have gravity and physics. So that was a little trick. I'm on ball. I'm going to go to add component. Rigid body should already be there. Use gravity. And now, let's see. We have an error, so let's debug. What is our error? Oh, no error. We're good. Save. Go to game. Go to play. And there it goes. Now, my board, you can't tell, but I'm pressing W and it's actually going down instead of up. I'm pressing S, it's going the opposite direction. And why that is happening is because I actually need to flip my game board. I was upside down, okay, based on the axis of how this is set up. All right. If you're confused about that, I'm talking about the vector. So I just flip my game board around and hit save, go back to game and start. And now W will go down or up and left and right. Now, if you did this correctly, you should be able to actually interact with the blocks you created. My controls are just a little off, but you should be able to actually have some control over your blocks. If you do not, go back and make sure your steps are complete. Let's take a look. So when we added those blocks, did we give them a rigid body? Yes. Let's make sure they need to have a rigid body. Okay. So our scripts are all in place and we have our rigid body. And let's take a look in Unity. Does everything have a rigid body? Aha, it does not. So we made a mistake by not adding a rigid body to the entire block formation. We can do that by going to Assets, Prefabs, and looking at our block prefab. And go to Add Component, Rigid Body. That was another step we missed. But we are learning. Okay, and now, if we click on each one of these, because we made a prefab, it updates everything. Wonderful. So everybody has a rigid body. We're good to go. Let's save. Go to Game. Play our game. And now, if I crash into an object, it should knock everything down. All right, I'm just not very good at this game, but you get the idea. Let's see. Oh no. I am not good at this game at all, but you guys can do much, much better. All right, so my objects now have rigid body. Now, they are falling apart and staying together because we added the rigid body after the fact. Make sure you add your rigid body to your blocks on each block. All right, so they have to be together. If you do the rigid body on the entire object, they will stay and fall apart like that. Okay, notice how when I hit the block, it fell over in one piece. That's because the rigid body was applied to the entire prefab. You want to apply your rigid body only to individual pieces, unless you want them to be all together. That's up to you. I'll let you decide that. Once you knock over all 4 of your blocks, take a screenshot. Show me your folder organization in your screenshot. So it should look something like this. All right. And I'll know your project works because you have been able to make all your blocks fall over. All right, like that. So you would take a screenshot like that with the game playing. Let's try that. I'm going to go back to gameplay. and see if I can knock over my, there we go, boom. All right. Again, I'm not a good player here. All right, so take a screenshot there, Control S, and I'm sorry, Windows key, print screen, very good, and take a screenshot, and you're good to go. If you have any questions, call me over, and as always, good luck and have fun. Until next time.